I had a gal, she read the book out of nowhere. She gets this feeling, I'm going to leave one on the top of this gas pump. That's as good as saying I'm going to throw this away. But she followed it. Spirit told her, put this on top of this gas pump. There was a specific gentleman who had written his suicide note and was about to pull the trigger when he got this feeling, don't you dare leave your Suburban empty of gas. Go fill it up first. And he gets to the gas station. He puts the pump in. He's pumping this gas, knowing full well what he's going to do as soon as he gets back home. And he sees this darn book sitting on top of that pump that says, The Light After Death. He opens it up, and by the third or fourth page, he told me he knew that plan was done. He went home, he ripped up his note, put the gun away, and decided that he wasn't so broken as he thought he was, that God did love him. He just needed to figure out how to receive that love. And to me, following those promptings is how we save each other.
Well, hello, Vinney Tolman. Welcome to the show. I am truly honored by you joining me and looking forward to our conversation. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling awesome, Brad. It's great to be here, and I feel driven to be here, for sure.
I do too, and I think we're going to hear more about that in a minute. But I got to tell you, every week we bring you powerful stories about life after death, awakening, and what it means to be human. And if that resonates, you'll love what's coming. Today, I am joined by Vinney Tolman, who was found dead in the bathroom at a Dairy Queen and then zipped into a body bag. Well, what happened next is one of the most incredible journeys through death and back I've ever heard. Vinney's best-selling books, The Light After Death and The Living the Light, detail a journey through dimensions, guides, choices, and love. But today we'll go beyond just the story and explore how his experience reshaped his understanding of life, truth, and who we really are. So welcome, Vinney.
Thank you for having me, Brad. It's such an awesome pleasure to be here.
Pleasure is all mine. And by the way, it's probably all of our viewers too. They're going to love this one. I know today we're going to jump deep into the NDE, which is really one of the best NDEs there is in the world. I'm just going to put it out there. I've certainly heard this and others may have as well, but we're going to hear that story in great detail, maybe even a few extra morsels today, right? And then really spend some time on post-NDE. You know, when your books came out and what you figured out with your abilities and your services that you provide the world, and really what came of all this. I think we can go into a lot of questions and answers and really feed a lot of great information to the guests today. And the guests, I know, they pump a lot of comments on this thing, and I love those. I'll jump into those later and we can really help them on their journey. What do you think?
I love it. I'm on board. Let's do it.
What brought you to this gathering that we have today?
Well, what's neat is I have a lot of interview requests with what I do, and quite a bit, like a lot to sift through, more than one person can sift through. And as I was going about my life, I was in church, and I was sitting there getting ready to watch this presentation by some of my friends who are musically inclined at church. And right as soon as the music started, I felt this burn to go to my interview requests and start scrolling. And that's not like an entertainment thing for me. That's not a scrolling thing for me. But that's what I did. I went right to my email account, found my interview requests. For me, it shows up as a specific doc. I go in there and start scrolling, and it was the weirdest thing. I felt the strongest pull to scroll, and then bam, they stopped me and they said, no, right here. What's this email? Click it. So I clicked it, and it was your email. And then it said the name of your podcast. I didn't quite recognize it, but I'll tell you what did recognize it was Spirit. And it was so strong. It said, you email him now. And I'm one that I've learned when it comes that strong, you follow it. Because if you don't follow it, someone else gets to follow it and be the one who brings, connection and light into others' lives. So I did. I followed it. I emailed you right then, and you happened to email me right back, I think, before I left church. And so we were able to set up a time. And what's really great is I'm usually booked out a month to 2 months in advance all the time. And I have a regular that was in this spot that we're recording on today. And again, this is another Spirit thing. Spirit said, hey, reach out to him. Ask him if he's okay pushing his appointment. And let's do an interview right there. So we did. And he gave me a thumbs up right away. So what normally takes 2 to 3 weeks to negotiate, navigate, to set up an interview, we did in less than a few hours. And so for me, that was quite miraculous. And yeah, so here we are. We're in his spot, which I love because it's now become your spot, which has become your podcast spot. Yeah.
Well, obviously, I couldn't love it more. And that story just brings tingles through my body every time, you mentioned it earlier, and then we just shared it now. But I got to tell you, I think, as you mentioned earlier, someone watching this recording is going to consume this, and their life is going to be changed forever. And that is the purpose of what we're doing today, to help others.
That's the neat thing about our Creator, our real Creator, what we call God, loves us so much that our Creator's going through all these angles and steps and actions to connect to one person's heart, and maybe more, but for one person specifically, this interview is for. And it may be you, maybe your friend or your neighbor or something, but here's a challenge I have for your audience. If you're watching this and the name or the image or the presence of someone you love or know keeps jumping into your consciousness throughout the process of watching this, share it to them. And if you do, you may get a thumbs up back that they're very happy that you shared it to them. But yeah, this to me is why I came back, is to be doing these things, is to be on God's mission for mankind, to help them remember who they really are.
I love the fact that without a doubt, it was the Creator's mission to connect us today for this gathering. So not only the folks that are listening right now, but like you said, those that they recommend this to, if you jump in the comments and say, yes, this was for me, well, thanks for the feedback.
Thank you. That would be awesome.
Well, the NDE experience is so profound. I have so many little nuanced questions to jump in after you start sharing the story. And then we've got a bit of a journey ahead today. It's going to be rich with content. So the stage and the microphone is yours.
I appreciate that, Brad. My story, it starts when I was 25 years old, which, believe it or not, that was not yesterday. It was a few years ago. And I was working in the movie business and also working in, TV movie. And then I was also working in construction. And that was my world back then, in the midst of, moonlighting as construction and doing TV, or doing, construction and moonlighting in film. Either way, I was in this very worldly existence. And by most terms, I would be considered pretty successful in what I was doing. But I didn't feel successful. I felt empty all the time. And so I was seeking to fill that void with sometimes alcohol, sometimes drugs. But what I found was better than both was bodybuilding or weightlifting for me. So I was on this weightlifting / amateur, want to be a bodybuilder path. And in that process, I found a particular supplement that would help us build our muscles really fast. And it was so popular, it was sold out everywhere. And so I went online, me and my best friend, we bought a bottle of this liquid supplement online. We get it. It comes from Thailand. And on January 18th, 2003, we open up this bottle. We each take one liquid bottle cap worth. And instantly, within seconds of both of us taking this, we both knew something was wrong. We both could feel something was off about this. And what we found out later is the stuff we had ordered online was 20 times stronger than the US stuff. So our one bottle cap was like taking 20 bottle caps of the American stuff. So it was far too strong. It started affecting both of us so much that we decided, hey, let's go down. We'll go to the Dairy Queen down the street. We'll get something to eat. That's going to help us feel better, and then we can go about our day. We get to the Dairy Queen. We barely get there. My buddy who was driving was losing consciousness from behind the wheel as we pulled into the parking lot. I put the car in park. I shook him to wake him up. I stumbled out of the car. I went into the Dairy Queen, and that particular Dairy Queen, there was a bathroom right in front of you when you walk in. So I walked right into that bathroom and locked the door. And the next thing I know, the room is spinning on me. I feel dizzy. I go over to the sink to kind of brace myself. And then I stepped away from the sink, and that's where I passed out. I went unconscious. And after I had gone unconscious, I started to vomit. And I was on my back. So I aspirated. But the next thing I know is I feel like I'm free from all pain in my body. It's like a snap, just snap like that, and then boom, I'm now free of all pain. And I'm looking around like, how is this possible? I mean, I was doing so much weightlifting, my body was always in pain. And I felt, wow, this is amazing. How am I not in pain anymore? All I could think was that something had changed, and now I wasn't in pain anymore. But the weird thing is I was watching a movie now. I went from being in that bathroom and then blackout and feeling free of pain, and now sitting in what felt like a theater watching a movie. But the movie I was watching was from a viewpoint from above, which movies don't do that. Rarely do movies do that. And me coming from that industry, I kept thinking, like, why would the director shoot this movie from above? That's kind of a silly idea. And that's the only thing I could think is, why are they shooting this movie from above? I'm looking down at a dead body. I'm looking down at a sick mess of a body covered in vomit. The neck had started to swell, and at one point, the neck on the body got wider than the jaw. It had swollen so much, and the skin color had turned very yellow here, but very purple right next to it. It truly looked like a bad Hollywood job. It didn't feel real. And so not at 1 second did I ever think that was me. What I thought was me was up here watching everything, and that's what I assumed. I noticed, though, I could look over the wall, and I could see my buddy. He had passed out in a dining booth, and he had started vomiting all over the booth. Well, the manager, he came, he found him, he called the emergency services. They came and got him and took him away. But nobody knew that this other guy, me, was in the bathroom. And it was a good 45 minutes later that the manager of the restaurant was prompted by another customer to go ahead and open that bathroom. And when he did, he found this dead guy on the ground. They did attempt, feeling for a pulse. They couldn't feel one. They got emergency services there, and when the services got there, they pronounced the body dead. They did attempt additional resuscitation, like chest compressions. They tried to feed some oxygen into the lungs. Nothing would work, and the body had actually started to turn cold. And to someone who was experienced, there was no chance of bringing this guy back. So they had this rookie with them, these two medics. They set the rookie to babysit the body in the bag, and they put it in the back of the ambulance as they went around and got witness statements from different witnesses in the restaurant. Well, they got done with that whole process, which is about another 30, 40 minutes. And they're pulling away from the scene. And as they pull away from the scene, this rookie medic in the back seat, he feels some kind of energy come over him and tell him that this one's not dead. At first he ignored it, but the second time it came, he knew he had to do something about it. He was already feeling bad that he had all this training and he couldn't use it on this guy. He wanted to use it on this guy. So he broke protocols. He opened up that body bag. And this is literally just after his orientation, after his training. He opens up that body bag. He attempts resuscitation. He hooks up a defib machine, which is one of those electric shockers for your heart. He hooks that up, and there's no heartbeat on the first attempt. On the second attempt, there was a single heartbeat and then flatlined. And then on the third attempt, there was a steady heartbeat. Now, one explanation of this is I had an internist and I had a neurologist both tell me that this supplement I was on, it thins your blood. And so in a way that helped me so that the heart could slow down even to where it was observed as stopped. But yet it still had life in it because of the thinning effect of the supplement. Now, to me, it's still a miracle because I was documented dead 47 minutes from the time they found me, which was already about 45 minutes dead, and the time that they resuscitated my heart, it was exactly 47 minutes. So 47 minutes documented, dead in a body bag, and the heart starts. Dummy me over here. I still think this is a movie. I have no idea it's me. Not until they bring the body to a hospital, which miraculously was a block away from where the heart started. There was a hospital there. So they went directly to that hospital. And it had a cardiology trauma center already set up there. So everything was set up for this body to come in and be given care. So as they were transferring the body from the medical gurney in the ambulance over to the medical bed in the hospital, they had to strap the body down because it was seizing. It was going to full seizures. And in that process, I felt someone strapping me down. And that was the first moment I realized, oh no, what you've been watching is you. And so I watched as my body was being injected and strapped down and straddled and jammed with tubes and just so many things. And respect and love to the trauma team, the medical team, the triage, who came in and just went right into action because this was very unpretty. It was so ugly what they had to do to this body to try to bring all of these systems back. Now, I didn't want to see this anymore. And I was feeling this tremendous sense of love and compassion just pouring over me from behind me. And right before I could turn and look, I started to see every bad thing that I ever did in my life. Even as a child, like even the little silly things you do as a naughty kid, I saw those things. I saw them from my eyes, but then also from the eyes of those who were my victims or perceived victims. And that was really hard. I didn't realize that I had been so hard on my brother. I had been so hard on some family. I didn't realize that I had been to put it plainly, a real jerk in my life sometimes. But I was never doing it because I chose to. I was doing it because I was reacting to. And I saw that. And the next thing I think is, if this is all that I am, why do I even exist? And that's when that warmth that was, pouring over me, it started to penetrate my being. And all of a sudden I started to see every good thing that I ever did. Every little good thing. Even sometimes as a child, I would walk up to an adult and just say things to them. And I had no idea that I was bringing light to them. I was bringing inspiration to them with my simple words. And there was other times where, I had good intentions and I was able to do a lot of good for people. But I got to see my whole life, all the good that I ever did. And I felt very optimistic that I was definitely a much better person than I was a bad person. And that was easy to see. It was just so easy to see. But bigger than that, it was easy to feel that, for every one bad thing I ever did, there was three, 4, or 5 good things that I did. So there was so much more. And that's when I realized, again, this love was pouring over me. And so I turned around to see where it was coming from. And I see this man all dressed in white. He's got a white suit, but he also has like a white robe on. And he's got his arms out, like just kind of like this. And he's very pink skinned. His hair's long and white. He's got a long white beard. And instantly, a kid raised Christian sees that and thinks one thing and one thing only. This is God. And that's what I thought. I didn't use my mouth. I just thought the words, this must be God. And without using any of his mouth or words either, he responded and said, no, son, I'm not God. And I'm shaking my head like, well, how can you be this and not be God? You must be a form of Jesus I've never seen before. He didn't look like Jesus, but that was the next thing I could think of. And so I asked him, then you must be Jesus. And he said, no, son, I'm not Jesus. He said, I'm your guide. I'm here to help you go wherever you want to go. And I could feel the pristine love he had for me. Just so much love, more love than I'd ever felt my entire life combined. I could feel in 1 second from this man. And that's when I noticed his skin glistened like wet sand on a beach. It glistened, but it was actually light coming out of him. Every bit of him was light. And I could feel amongst that light was a complete surrendered love of me. And it didn't make sense. I didn't feel that it was possible to be worthy of a love like that. It was greater than what we put out to things we worship here. The way we treat things we worship here on earth. It was greater than that energy, but it was pointed towards me, the very imperfect kid who has grown into a man. And I sat there and thought about it. Well, if you're my guide and you can take me anywhere I want to go, can you take me to where this love is coming from? This love that I feel from you. Can you take me there? And he got excited. He goes, well, that's from our home. That's your home, my home. We can go home. And I got so excited. I kind of rode on his excitement like, oh, let's go home. So we began this journey. And, growing up in church, I grew up in a very strong Christian house. I thought I knew everything I needed to know. I truly believed there was a special VIP door for us Christians. And so I told him, I go, just show me where I enter heaven. Let's just go. And he looked at me with those loving eyes and he goes, I love that you think that's how it is. But we have a little bit of journeying to do, a little bit of growing and learning to do. And then you're going to find your access to heaven. And so I said, let's do this. Let's go for this now. Let's do what we need to do. And he began to teach me. I assumed I knew everything. I was very earthly with my understandings. I knew some, but I definitely didn't know it all. And he helped me understand that first and foremost, I needed to learn what authenticity was. And I needed to know who I was authentically. And that was a big deal. I had a lot of different versions of myself I was dealing out to different people. And he showed me that inside each one of those people I was dealing out as I dealt with people was a common soul, an authentic soul inside there. And that soul was much more attractive to the world than what I was showing to the world. And that I needed to align myself with my true self. And he showed me how. The way I could do it is to peel away all the masks that I allowed myself to wear. I mean, I had a mask for my own family. I had a mask for every job I ever had. I had different masks for different friends. I had different masks for different girlfriends. But it's like I needed to find out who I really was by pulling down all of those masks. Every single one. So I did. I pulled down every mask, and my guide, he introduced himself as Drake. That's what he called himself. He says, Drake goes, next I need you to know why you're here, why you chose to come to Earth School. And I remember hearing that, like, that's kind of funny. I always thought Earth was a test, not a school. And that was a big eye-opener for me, to even consider Earth as a school versus a test. And so he showed me that we had perfection before we came here. We had the ultimate life before we came here. But it wasn't enough because we wanted to grow. And we couldn't grow in perfection. We had to grow by stepping away from stability and protection and perfection so that we could learn how to make choices. Learn how to deposit your energy. Your thoughts are your energy. Your attention is your energy. And everything you deposit those things into, they turn into things. And that it's just a process of learning to distinguish where you want to put your energy. And if you put it into relationships, you build relationships. If you want to put it into unhealthy relationships, you will build more unhealthy relationships. But the important part was that I wasn't sent to Earth, or I didn't volunteer to go to Earth to be judged, to be thrown away or saved. I came here like it was a playground. I wanted to come here and learn how to do stuff. And part of that was learn how to love. Because our home is so full of love, we don't have to rely on our own love. We get it from everything there. So we had to leave that love to come here to find out if we can love, if we do love. And he was just blowing my mind left and right with this stuff. And Drake, he kept teaching me different things. And he would always tell me, you don't have to accept this. You just have to be willing to think it's possible. And as long as I was willing to think it was possible, we could keep the progress going. And, along the journey, prejudice came up. And prejudice was different for me. I didn't think there was any prejudice in me. I have two Asian sisters, who are Korean. And so I felt like that was my in, that I couldn't have prejudice because I thought that racism was the only prejudice. But it's not. There's a lot of others. But as I worked with Drake, he showed me, he said, Vinney, I know that you don't think you're prejudiced, but how do you feel about prejudiced people? And I went off. I go, Drake, I'm going to tell you about prejudiced people. And I just went off about everything about them. And he drew this like little cartoon of Vinney. And he drew two teams. One was non-prejudice, one was prejudice. And he took this little effigy of me from the non-prejudice side, and he lifted it up and he brought it over to the prejudice side. And he showed me that my words towards prejudiced people was being prejudiced, which is like, boom, that blew my mind. That here I was thinking it was okay to hate a certain segment of the population because they were prejudiced. But in doing so, you are a portion of that segment. That blew my mind. I woke up and decided I need to learn how to not hate anyone. I don't have to love them necessarily, but I don't need to hate them. And as I can do that, I can love the spark of God, the spark of our Creator that is inside of all of us. And I can love that portion of anyone. And that allows me to take my prejudice and put it down for good. And as I did that, I felt an acceleration to our movement. And I felt us getting much quicker, much faster to a distinct dimension or space. And as we approached this, I could feel one of the final messages Drake had for me was to understand that we are magic. We are. That all of us are magic. And that, through our imagination, through our thoughts, we have access to magic. And that we can truly create using our thoughts. And that it's important for us to seek out good things, to seek out good entertainment, good content, and create good content and entertainment, like this podcast. But creating good things and consuming good things, that we get to choose what makes us who we are. And that through that, we all carry a magic wand. And our magic wand is our choices. What we choose to put in our minds, in our ears, in our mouths, in our bodies. When we choose those things, we're truly controlling our physical universe. And that the universe is just you inversed, you inside out. And if we don't like what we're seeing in the outside world, go work on the inside world. And if you do, you'll watch your outside world change. And that's when Drake dropped a bomb on me. And that was, there's purpose in evil. And because, even though I had already worked through prejudice, a hero of mine was my Uncle Chuck. And he was a man who was a positive influence on me in a world where I had very little positive influences from men. And he was my complete hero, but he was also an atheist. He believed that if there was a God, that God would not allow the bad things to happen to kids and to innocents and to women. That if there was a God, that God should step in and stop those things. And Drake could feel that belief in me as well. Because I empathized with that belief. I still empathize with the plight that the innocent don't deserve the bad that they get. But what I was shown with Drake is that if you take away the option of evil, you take away the growth that you get by choosing good. That remove the bad choice, and now you don't get to grow by making the choice. And that, yes, part of the gift of this life is there is going to be bad that happens, but it's what you do from that allows you to create your universe. You can go forward and do good. You can unify with your brother, your sister, your neighbor, and walk through the valley of death together and come out on the other side a stronger community, a stronger way of being, even with evil and even with darkness out there. And that was a hard one for me. And Drake showed me that we're all fingers on God's hands, all of us. That for us to hurt one finger to another is to only hurt oneself. And that there's no way to bomb another country without bombing us. That in some energetic form, every harm that we bring upon the world, we are bringing upon ourselves. And until we get that, this world is going to stay in this somewhat static pattern or cycle of highs and lows, highs and lows, highs and lows. But when we choose to put down the evil and set up and support the light, the love and the service of each other, and not because we're in our own country and they're in our country, despite the country borders. As we do that and we love and serve our brothers and sisters, we usher in a new world. And when I say new world, I mean a completely new version of life for all of us. Outside countries and governments and politics, we invite a new way of being where we can invite heaven into our living space no matter what is going on in the outside world. And it felt kind of funny to me that Drake would be telling me about all this when here I am about to enter heaven. And later, obviously, it made sense because I was rejected out of heaven. I was sent back. I had to go back to school. And, at that point, I did see this beautiful space. I could see this grassy hill. I could see this lake, this little stream. I could see these beautiful mountains. And in the distance, I could see this like white stone building. And I'm just taking all of this in. And I'm, even though I'm not in a physical body, I'm in an energetic body, which to me feels more physical than our body here. And I'm feeling this energetic body of mine tremble as I get closer and closer and closer to this space. And before I know it, I'm looking down at my toes, coming down and meeting with the grass. And the second that my toes made contact with the grass, it felt like I found my best friend, my mother, my father, everyone who could have ever loved me in this life. Even my, in church we call our Heavenly Father, our Heavenly Mother. I felt like I felt them all through this grass. And what I didn't realize, that my whole life I had ached for this moment. Every hardship I ever went through, I was aching internally to be standing in this grass. I felt this grass pour love into me. Love that no one could be worthy of. I could have been a perfect person and never did anything wrong, and I still wouldn't be worthy of this love that it was just pouring into me. I could feel a sweetness that I could taste in my mouth coming from the grass. The grass itself had rainbows, like these like rainbow pulses radiating off of it. There was so much sensory that I was getting from the grass that we don't get here. Completely, we don't get that sensory here. And I could feel just this divine presence of love from every single blade of grass. And that's what I realized. My consciousness could go down and it could connect with every single blade of grass individually. Not just the hive of it or the combined unit. every single blade. And I could talk to it, and I could feel it loving me and singing how much it loved me. And all I could think is, why me? I'm not worth this. Why me? I messed up. I just saw all my bad video. I just saw all the bad stuff I did. Why me? And that's when I heard the grass say, because you're you. As if, how could I not know? You're you. And that's when I saw that in heaven, the entire place, it sees us as a divine masterwork, as something worthy to pour everything you can into them. And I'm just losing it. And Drake is just like sitting off to the side. He's relishing this moment. He loves that I'm feeling so much love. He can feel my soul healing. And, in later time, he told me that he could feel my soul healing as I plugged into my home. And I didn't realize how much I missed it. And I did miss it. I still miss it. But Drake, he goes, if you think the grass is good, you should see the flowers. And I was like, there's flowers? What? I was so excited. He took my consciousness, even in my energetic body, he took my consciousness and he put it on a flower, like on the petals of a flower. And I'll never forget, it was as if I was walking on liquid crystal, but it was like this lavender pinkish color, but it was liquid in there. The colors were liquid. And that everywhere I touched this flower, I could just feel this supreme love. For me, for all of creation. And again, I'm kind of nerding out on this. I don't understand this. The earth, in its unity, you gather all the love that we can ever find here. And it's not enough love that is found in one blade of grass in heaven. That love is so much bigger than what we can understand. And I'm walking around on this flower, interacting with it. And that's when I hear Drake say, you want to check out the trees? And I was like, there's trees. So then, bam, he's got me over at the trees. I'm connecting to them. I'm feeling the ancient wisdom of these trees and how these trees go back before time itself and that they predate even my consciousness. And that my consciousness at some point found its home with these trees, and it wasn't home until I got back. And so I got to feel that, and I got to feel that these trees wanted to give me more wisdom, but I couldn't hold anymore. I was already at my bursting point because there was so much love being poured upon me. I mean, it was better than being like a celebrity. It was like being a god, to have all of these things just loving you so much. And that's when I felt this little tap on my toe. I looked down, I saw water. And the water asked me with love, do you want us on you? And I was like, yes, yes. I want anything you've got, bring it on. And the water started on my toes. It went up over my feet, over my ankles, my shins, my calves, my knees, my legs, up over my hips, my abdomen, my shoulders, my back. It went up and over my head and completely encapsulated me. At the same time, it went down each arm and encapsulated. And I could feel this huge shift. And it was like a single point. It was like a pop. It was like, boom. And all of a sudden, that water was completely encompassing me. And I could feel it. at the spiritual molecular level, it was going and finding the last little cracks and damages that earth life had impacted me with. And it was filling it in with love. And I felt this finishing point. It had gotten done. And right as it had gotten done, I felt a pulse of energy come off of me inside that water. And I could even see that the grass, the flowers, even the trees rippled with this pulse of energy. It's as if that pulse was a done symbol, where I was done. They had done what was set to do, and that was to heal me of 25 years of trauma. And so I was just enjoying this as the water came down off of me. And then I realized that, in churches, when they do baptisms, that this is what we're copying. This is what we're emulating when we do baptism, is a rebirthing, an encapsulation of the old and a rebirthing of the new. And that's what I felt. Many people to this day will tell you that the Vinney before my experience is not the same Vinney who came out of my experience. I mean, look different, talk different, act different, even likes, dislikes, everything different after. I exited my experience as a different being. And I exited that water. I then had my attention on this building. And I wanted to go see what was in the building. I knew it was some kind of school. I knew that there was many people from all time periods there. Even people from our future there, people from our ancient past there. And they're all there doing learning. And, some people call this building the Akashic Hall, but to me it was bigger than that. It was more like the room of requirement on Harry Potter. It was more this place of learning, and it encompassed anything you need for the job of learning. But you had to match the frequency of what was being taught for you to enter the room. And the door to the space would not form until your frequency matched. But if it didn't, you were okay with it. You would just keep walking until you found the room that did match your frequency. And you would lovingly embrace whatever room that was. It's like everything was synchronistic and in unison with each other. Nobody was angry or fighting or having any type of energy of ego. They were all in this, what I call the Christ mind, the unified, selfless love of all. And I could feel just the strongest presence of this energy in this space. And I made a motion to go towards this building. And that's when Drake, he actually physically pulled me and said, "Vinney, this is going to be hard, but it's going to be worth it." And he looked me right in the eyes when he said that. And he brought me in for a hug. This hug was a combination of all this love I felt from the trees, from the water, from the flowers, from the grass, even from the air itself. And he was pouring it all into me again with this hug. I felt these huge pulses of energy again coming off of the two of us. And I felt that there was this tremendous force if two people come together in selfless love like that, even with a simple hug. There's this tremendous expelling of force, and you can feel it. It's a very strong energy. And as that was all happening, I started to hear in my ear my brother on earth, saying a prayer over my body. What I didn't know is I had been brain dead for 3 days. And this was the third night. My brother was saying a prayer. he was blessing my body to be made whole. And he was commanding my spirit, my soul, to come back into my body, but not for himself and not for my dad, or for my sisters, but it was for our mother, who he ached. She didn't know about any of this yet. She was in another state, attending to my uncle, the one who I love. And they knew not to break the news to her until they knew if I was going to live or die. And they didn't know. The doctors were saying I was going to die. So my brother, as this last effort of faith, he commands my soul to come back into my body. And he did that just after 10 p.m. at night. And at 1:11 in the morning, that a few hours later, I woke up. And, at first, I didn't remember any of my experience. It was a good about 30 hours later that my sister asked me if I saw anything. And I tried to form the words, no, leave me alone, don't bother me. But what came out of my mouth was, number one, crying. And as I cried and wept like a little child, I said, I have a guide. His name's Drake. He showed me heaven. He helped me get there. And I could barely get any of it out. I just started weeping, just heavy, heavy weeping. And that wasn't like me. I wasn't a public crier, not then. And my sister, she kind of calmed me down and said, well, we can talk about it later. Because I was inconsolable at that point. But all of a sudden I had all these memories showing up in me that I didn't remember having. And it took me quite a while to adjust to all of that. It was a process of seeking out professional help, mental help. And it was 6 months later that I saw in this little town of Wyoming. I was watching at a family reunion. I was watching this historical presentation on Afton, Wyoming. And they were talking about the first leaders of the town. And then they talked about one of the first clergy of this town. And up comes a picture of Drake. It floored me. I about lost it. I did start to cry. And but here was the hard part. It didn't say his name was Drake. It said his name was Charles. So that confused me. I thought, number one, how could I even know this man and know him so strongly? I could tell you the color of his skin, the color of his eyes, even though this picture was black and white. I could tell you all the things that even the picture didn't tell you and that you couldn't even find on any documents written anywhere. Like, I knew things about this man that no one could know, but yet I didn't have his correct name in my mind. I recognized his last name as my grandmother's maiden name. So we drove directly from there to my grandmother's house. I walked right in and I go, Grandma, tell me about this Charles Kazare. Who is he? And her response was, oh, you mean great grandpa Drake? He's kind of famous. And that was it. I lost it again. I started weeping. She explained to me that officially he was always known as Charles. His middle name was Drake. But if you were family or someone who was as close as family, you knew him as Drake. And that was a way he distinguished, work and personal life for himself. And it was a neat revelation for me, because even if I had some way of knowing who this man was, I couldn't have, outside of knowing him myself, man to man, person to person, I couldn't have known his spoken name was Drake to friends and to family. It was just a beautiful confirmation, and I've had thousands since, and now let's call it thousands and one with setting up this meeting today, because this was not me setting it up. It was spirit bothering me until I did it. And I'm glad they did. But that's my experience.
That is why I called it one of the best NDEs ever. I mean, what's amazing is the extension and the extensibility of the other side, the details of the experience that you had, but also combined with many of the things that just sort of lock it in. So Drake, how did you meet Drake on the other side and then find him here? But also the fact that you were actually entirely dead. In my book, it's at least 90 minutes. You had
Yeah.
45 minutes where they were dealing with your friend
Hmm.
before they even found you. And then you had another 45 where they thought you were dead sitting in a bag and they're taking,
Yeah.
testimonies and signatures and then, off you go. That's at least 90 minutes before
Yep.
they even get a little bit of a pulse. Even if your blood is thinned out from that potion that you took,
Yeah.
your heart, even if it's beating a little bit, and there's not enough blood to feed the brain, the body, the organs, and all that sort of thing. So, and you said you were brain dead. So, just for a moment, talk about the medical miracle here also. To what extent did you medically die, and then how did that recover?
So, in brain electrical activity, I was under 5% for all 3 days. And when, the neurologist was looking at my chart, here's the weird thing. Shortly after the prayer that my brother gave, activities kicked up in the brain. And even if I had not woken up and come out of my coma, the neurologist, as he came around, did his rotations that next day, he would have seen that activity and he would have tried to attempt to stimulate a waking or some process of bringing the consciousness back. But you see it. You see that the brain activity from about 5 minutes after that prayer, or maybe right as he said amen, it was about like 10, 11 or 10, 15 at night, the brain activity starts kicking up. And then right at 1:11, you see a jog and then a 0, because I was yanking everything off of me. I didn't want anything touching me. I ripped every diode, every catheter, every IV, everything off of me. I just felt very claustrophobic in the beginning because, we think we know size and reality, but our soul is much larger than these bodies that we're in. And to me, our soul is closer to the size of a whale. And to force that soul into this body, it makes sense that we come here as babies. Otherwise, we'd be crying adults saying, I don't like this. I don't like being put in this little body. So I think that's one of the reasons why we're born here as babies, so that we can condition ourselves and get ready for this smaller version of us. But we are so much bigger than these bodies that we exist in.
And that's actually a common experience when people are passing away. If they're
Mm-hmm.
in a hospital or a home that they're being taken care of, maybe they're older and they're about ready to go, they start to tear, these things off of them because maybe they're starting to sort of slip into the soul and
They are.
feeling much
Mm-hmm.
bigger and this stuff is just holding me back. That very, very common. So in your case, has it been called a medical miracle? Because if you hadn't taken a breath for 90 minutes, okay,
Yeah.
and then they restart, they can artificially restart a heart and lungs and keep you on kind of a machine. And
Mm-hmm.
if your brain activity is just 5%, everyone would suspect, well, you got to turn the machine off. There's really nothing left. He didn't breathe for 90 minutes.
That's where they were. In fact, that's what got my brother going to give me that prayer. Is that day he came in after work to come check on me. He had some of his friends there, who was also the guy that I had taken the medicine or the supplement with. He was there, which he turned out to be fine. They pumped his stomach. He was out the very next day. But my brother was there, and the doctor pulled him aside and said, "Hey, you and your dad need to," because they were assigned the decision makers on what was going on. He got pulled aside and said, "Hey, you need to research some palliative care. If you're not ready to pull this plug, we can't keep him in a hospital like this so long. We need to choose. We relocate him to palliative care, or we pull the plug and see what happens." And that was not a decision my brother wanted to make. And it was a decision he knew not to give to my dad. So, you know, that was weighing on him. And to me, that was what really fueled his prayer over me. Now, this was a long time ago for him. He doesn't remember much of all this. But what's funny is I remember every little thing from my experience, even my interaction through this side of things while I was in the experience. And it's never faded. I've been under full hypnosis to see if there was any extra little pockets of stuff that I forgot, and there's not. It's the same exact experience, whether I'm under full hypnosis or conscious and awake telling you. So it is, you know, it's hard to understand, but for sure, they were calling me the miracle boy, even though I was 25 years old, and I'm like, I'm not a boy. They were calling me the miracle boy on that whole floor. So I was on the third floor of this little hospital, and from 1:11 until 7:30 in the morning, they kept calling me, oh, you're the miracle boy. You're the miracle boy. You're the one who wakes up. No one wakes up. They kept saying that. And they kept inundating me with, what's your name? What date is it? When were you born? Where do you live? Like simple things that all of us know. They kept looking for me to have a mix-up or a hiccup so that they could use that as an excuse to keep me longer. They wanted to keep me for like 3 to 4 more days. The neurologist especially said, this isn't going to stick. He's going to go back under, and he might be driving. You don't want that. We need to watch him for 3 more days, but I wasn't going to have it. And once I could answer those questions accountably, consciously, they had to let me self check out. They had to let me check myself out.
And so they're looking for cognitive decline.
Yes, cognitive decline. Yep.
Yeah, that would come from, not breathing for 90 minutes for sure, they would expect. And sometimes folks, just before they die, they have this, consciousness that wakes up and they're totally coherent, and then they go, and they didn't want that to be the case.
They didn't. And I understand that now. I've actually seen that with a lot of end-of-life patients in hospice, where they'll wake up and have a lucid day and then they go. So I can see that that's what the training of the neurologist was saying. But at the same time, I was like, nope, I'm telling my own story. I get to be my own story, and I'm out of here. I just knew I needed to get out of there. Here's the weird thing. I wanted to go home. I ached to go home, and I'll never forget it. I got home and I looked around at my stuff and my things, and I go, and the first thought I have is, this isn't my home. I want to go home. But at that point, I still didn't remember my experience yet. It wasn't till that night that I remembered the experience. It was very confusing. Yeah. And, I asked my spirit team, why did they have to give me that 1-day amnesia? And they said, because if I had remembered, I would have grabbed something sharp and put myself back in heaven.
Okay, so that's key. So now this is important because it happens with a lot of NDE folk.
Oh, yeah.
They go home and they love it. They come back and then they have a difficult time being here when they know that is there. And yet, at some point, you realize, no, I'm here for a reason. I chose to be here.
Yes.
And it's for the lessons and the wisdom and the experiences that I'm having while I'm here that I can't have over there. So I need to focus now, and that's tough because it's such a draw.
It's such a draw. I mean, it's imagine, this is kind of one of the explanations I've given. Imagine that you were raised in a little iron box with handcuffs on your hands and your legs. And all of a sudden one day, somebody opens that box, they cut off your chains and your handcuffs, and they take you to Hawaii. And you get to spend 3 days in Hawaii. And then all of a sudden someone shows up with that little box and handcuffs and chains and says, come on now, get back in, come on. This is where you're going to spend the rest of your life. I didn't want anything to do with it. I wanted so bad to go back. So much so that when I first came back, I went to a website and I looked up the most dangerous jobs, the jobs that you can't, get insurance on, like life insurance. So I looked up those jobs. The most dangerous job was underwater welder. I had to be either a Marine or in the Navy to do that one, and I couldn't do that one, so I was neither. So I went to the next one, which was a crab fisherman up at the Alaska boats for king crab. They have one of the highest fatalities of any other job, especially back then. There was less safety equipment as there is now. And so I signed up. I signed up for a little list that you could get on. And as soon as your name came up, you're going to be able to go fish on one of those boats. I also signed up for the military. I was ready. I wanted to go. I wanted to die. But I wanted to do it in the right way, where it wasn't suicide. It was just negligent.
Looking for as high risk an
Yeah.
occupation as you could find, maybe a window washer on a 110-story building.
Yes. I even thought about skydiving and thinking, oops, I didn't pull my parachute. I thought about so many different ways. And every time I would, spirit would come into me and they would say, why are you doing this? And they would show me, if you do this, we're going to make you survive, but make it even worse. So stick it in there, like stay in this game. You're back for a reason, and help us show you what it is. And it's really neat. Right after this happened, I met a girl, and I literally saw heaven in her eyes. And she was one of my friend's best friends. We hit it off. We knew we were going to get married before we even went on one date. We just knew it. We could feel God arranging this marriage. And, we've been married 26 years, and it hasn't been easy to be married to me because I'm different. I come with a lot of stuff. I do. But I also come with a lot of good. And it's been an awesome 26 years. We have 2 beautiful kids. But what's beautiful for me about that is God saved her until I was ready. I was ready to say, okay, I'm here, I'll stay. And then I met her days after I made that decision.
Wow. So you found the little piece of heaven here on Earth.
Yes.
And it was kind of like you were in that box with the chains, but somebody gave you an iPad with some Hawaii videos.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Okay, fine. I'll be in the box for a while.
And what's neat is over the years, I've been trying to build my own heaven in the life I live, the friends I work with and do things with. Like I've been trying to build our own version of heaven here. And not just that, not even build, but find and discover the little moments of heaven everywhere. A moment alone with a tree, just acknowledging the beauty and the nobleness of nature. Forest bathing, going out and recognizing the beauty of the ocean and the seas, and even just staring at a seashell and seeing all the divine engineering and mechanisms to make this physical world what it is. It puts me in awe. It doesn't make me not miss heaven, but it does help me find little versions of it here and there. And my favorite versions are when I'm serving someone else and I see in their eyes Drake's eyes, or I'm opening a door for someone or being really kind to them, and I see how it changes their day. I see it in their eyes. And to me, that's where I see God, is I see God in the eyes of those who I serve, those who I work with, those who I strive to help in everything that I do.
Well, that's amazing. And that kind of feels like you being Drake, turning around and helping others the way Drake helped you, the way Drake made you feel. You can actually do that. Now, since you had that experience and that knowing, you can come back to this physical experience and find heaven in it yourself and know
Mhm.
that, and then share that with those that would resonate with that sharing experience. Not everyone will, I guess.
Yeah. Some people are not ready for it, but some people are ready for it. Yeah.
Well, you know what's great too is you packaged this up pretty quickly. I'm not sure what the timing was, but you came out with your first book, Light After Death, and then inside Light After Death, you have your 10 principles.
Yeah, there's 10 very distinct principles that Drake taught me. For the longest time, I wasn't going to do a book, but every time I would speak to a group about my experience, they would always ask me, "Hey, where's your book? I want to buy the book." So we created it because of demand and also because Spirit was telling us to do it. So we did that. And then shortly thereafter, we started getting the request, "Hey, why don't you do some kind of workbook about these 10 principles? These are life-changing and they go beyond religion. You can be any religion or no religion and follow the 10 principles." And that's what I love, is those 10 principles make you a better version of you, and a version of you that's more connected to heaven, more connected to the etherical. And for even the atheists that don't believe in a heaven or a God, you can call it more connected to the universe or the cosmos. What's neat is it doesn't matter what you call it. It matters that you do it, because when you do it, you feel more connected to life and to what matters in this life.
That's great. Yeah, it's kind of like the tablets of the 10 Commandments.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
the 10 principles. And it's great that you wrote it up in your account inside of the Light After Death. And then later on, you have the workbook, which is Living the Light.
Yes.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where you put these to practice. And I think you've got your own experiences that you share with each of these principles as well.
I do. I've got experiences that I've had since my experience. And then I have even the experiences of me learning the principle with Drake and how that came about, what it was like. So it's fun. The workbook itself is really cool. It helps you go through this journey, kind of like Drake is taking you on the journey. And you get to just identify with these 10 principles. I would say 99% of the world can identify with these 10 principles. And the 1% who can't, I don't know about them. But hey, and no judgment, I love them all.
That's right. Now, I know in the process you mentioned a couple of times how a spirit or the creator is talking to you and giving direction to you. Now, and I know you've mentioned before that the ND heightened your intuition experience, maybe even a little too high. You had to tone it down.
Yes.
So talk about the difference between the intuition and then the voice talking to you, what that feels like.
Well, it's kind of like if you have a radio in your house, you can kick it on and you can start tuning that radio and you can pick up all sorts of stations on the AM band, on the FM band. You know, even in the walkie-talkie world, you know, you've got all these stations you can tune into. And what I learned is after my experience, I was picking up all this radio chatter, but it wasn't DJs and music. It was spirits. It was angels. It was all sorts of energy, both high and low. I was picking up departed souls who were confused and a bit lost, and they were not letting themselves embrace that light and move on. They were staying here. So I was picking up them. Some of them, I was seeing them physically with my eyes. There was one time right after I got married, I was driving around and I had to stop. I had to full on stop the car and tell my wife, like, "Andrea, I need you to drive. I keep thinking I'm going to hit these things, these beings." And you know, her life is a bit of a circus with me, and she empathized and said, "Sure, I got you." And so she drove me around that day until I could learn to control it better. I did have to learn to, number one, I had to learn what I considered good spirit and what was considered bad spirit for me. And that was me. So when I was receiving energy from below me, literally from my lower sense of body, I knew that even if it was coming as truth, I didn't need to do anything about it. I could just receive it, let it go. But when it comes from a place higher than my heart, I know it comes from a safe space. And once I know it comes from a safe space, I can actually check in with who it's coming from. And if it's coming from a trusted source, like literally an angel or one of my guides, which we all have guides, whether we believe it or not, we all have guides, all of us. And anyone who says they don't, they're closing their eyes and saying, I don't have them, I don't have them. Yeah, you do. Open your eyes. Everybody has guides. We all have them. And what's neat is we can learn to tap into them. And more importantly, we can learn to take what they're giving us and see if it resonates with high truth or low truth. And with the high truth, you can feel safe in following the direction. When it comes in a low truth, use discretion. Like I won't follow low truths, even though it comes in a form of truth. The way I'm receiving it, I'll receive it the wrong way, and I'll make mistakes. So what I like to do is the litmus test for me is this message coming from a place of love? A place of love that I can sense is higher than the love I have in my body. And if I get a yes, I know it's safe to receive and go forward. Now, other intuitive people are like, no, don't put any filters on. Just accept it all. That works for them. This is what's always worked for me. And I can tell you, I've learned this by making mistakes a lot because I thought you just listen to everybody. And you can't. You can't just listen to everybody. You can love everybody, but you want to listen to those who are invested in a higher purpose, not just to get you to do stuff.
Got it. Yeah, that almost sounds like it's like testing you in some ways. I'm
It
going to give you
does.
some good messages, maybe some not so good, and we're going to see how you respond and react. That's your free will. Let's see what happens. And from that, you might learn from mistakes that you make and tune that up a bit. It sounds like you have. And maybe that's your direction to other people also.
Yes.
They haven't talked to their spirit guides, figure out a way to open up to them and then start trusting the intuition and testing and tuning it as well. Any direction for folks there?
Absolutely. So here's a perfect little test, okay? Let's do 3 tests. The number 1 test is right when you wake up, ask yourself, who needs me today? Who needs me today? And the first image, the first name to pop in your head, reach out to them. And that's a way to know that your guides are giving you that name, okay? The other test number 2 is, again, right when you wake up. For some reason, right when you wake up, it's a good moment for this. It's what I call the hour of power. Ask out loud, do I even have guides? Do I have spirit guides? But listen to the thoughts that are coming into your head when you ask that. Spirit speaks in your own head, but here's the way it speaks. Your thoughts, they have a train. You can follow your train of thought from this thought to that thought to that thought. But the squirrel moments, I call them squirrel moments, because just like on the cartoon with the dog where he's like, oh, squirrel, and like stops what they're doing and interjects. Those are spirits. And when you're going about your thoughts and you're following that train of thought and all of a sudden, bam, Grandma JoJo, she just popped right into my head. I need to reach out to her today. And you reach out to her and she find out, oh, I was wanting you to call me. So it's like, this is spirit. It's, when you go into the science of it, it's the quantum entanglement. We're all from the same fabric, the quantum field. And all of our threads tie up to this quantum fabric. And spirit is constantly trying to feed us good directions from that high space. And yeah, then the third one is plan to go do something fun, but don't plan where. Plan a time, plan a place, invite whoever's going, and as soon as you jump in the car, ask one of the people in the car, say, you'll never guess where we're going tonight. And then the first thing that comes out of their mouth, go there. and you're going to have an amazing time, a great time, a fun time.
Yeah, those are three great ones. I love that. So the first one, who can I help today? The next one, do I really have guides? And then feel what comes up. And then the third one, plan an outing and ask the crazy question, guess where we're going? And they'll tell you where you're going.
Yeah.
And that coming out of their mouth is coming from a spirit that knows where you should all go to have a good time.
Yes. And what's really neat too, and I'll give you a fourth one. And I know a lot of, traditional Christians that use this one. They will say, God, what's the message you have for me today? And then they'll do one or two things at that point. They'll either open their Bible and start randomly flipping to pages. And, it's called bibliomancy, where they'll just put their finger on a page and a word, and they will take energy or understanding about what they flip to in the Bible. The other thing you can do is say the same question. God, what's the message you have for me today? And then listen to the next 5 people that you overhear their words. And this is fun because you can write down what you're hearing. And when you read it back to yourself, it's laughable how God is speaking through random strangers. And by your access to them in the random words you're overhearing them say.
So do you do that in a crowded mall where there's people walking around?
I used to, just for fun and entertainment, but after using your intuition long enough, you realize that you don't need to do any gimmicks or tools. It's all right there. You can just use it, all that you want. Just make sure you keep a filter of love on it, so you're not taking it from a low place. You're taking it into a high place. And the veil, the distance from our memory here and our memory there in heaven is getting thinner and thinner and thinner, and eventually it disappears. But there's a true directive of low energy forces that want to keep us so preoccupied with technology that we won't look up from our technology to seek out direction from spirit. So put your technology down, especially when you're trying to be inspired.
Yes, but not until after the podcast, though.
Yes, after the podcast. Well, you can download that and listen to it when you're on your nature walk or on your hour of power. Yeah.
That's a good point. Now, I liked how you brought up the notion of veil. The veil of forgetfulness, when we come into this physical manifestation, seems to disconnect us from that connected, loving feeling we have on the other side. Because how could you have this crazy experience if you're connected to love all the time? So you're disconnected. But part of this, a lot of folks are talking about, 3D to 5D, and the veil thins out and we can connect back and we can sort of have a little of the other side capabilities on this side. That'll be interesting to see. And I'm wondering, how does that vector into conversations you've had in the past about the pineal gland? The notion of following the original word of wisdom and the notion of avoiding aluminum and so forth to activate it. Does the pineal gland have a role?
Absolutely, it does. When you understand the occult, when you understand symbology, they've been proudly broadcasting to the world that they are downplaying your pineal gland and upplaying theirs because they want to have that direct access to God and they don't want you to. So where you find that, you can find it in many religions publicly in symbology. But the pineal gland, or pine cone gland, that's what pineal means, is seen in that symbology. But I'll tell you, in my own life, I can tell you what works for me. I completely eliminated fluoride out of everything. Fluoride calcifies that pineal gland. Aluminum permanently damages the pineal gland. So stay away from aluminum. Deodorants that have aluminum, any kind of aluminum, even the aluminum that they use for coloring in certain foods, get away from it all. And then go to nature as often as you can. I know that cilantro and basil are very good at helping decalcify the pineal gland. So is the fruit, the tamarind fruit, or, the fruit that they make the drink tamarindo, which is like a Mexican drink. That tamarind it's kind of like a dried out sea pod with a raisiny flesh inside. That one is also very good at decalcifying the pineal gland. But the best thing for your pineal gland is detox, detox, detox. Heavy metal detox, bentonite clay, baking soda baths, Epsom salt baths, or getting on an all-natural detox that you can ingest. But those detoxes help better than anything. I've worked with people where they said, "Nope, God can't speak to me. I know God can't." And in a matter of maybe 3 weeks of cleaning up their diet or their habits just a little bit, especially getting them off any kind of soda, they all of a sudden are hearing God. Now, everybody hears God differently. And some of us hear God through our guides. Some of us interpret that as God directly. But the guides don't care what we call them. They just care that we take high messages and do high things with them, like high energy, high love energy messages, and do high love frequency things with them.
And the notion of intuition and the use of the pineal to hear messages, whether it's audible or it's a sort of a knowing, how would you define that?
So what's neat is our access to our intuition is accessing the magic inside of us, the magi. And where does the magi reside? In the I, magi nation, the imagination. And so in the beginning, yes, you're going to battle your ego a little bit about this. It's going to feel like this is all going on in your imagination. But here's where you fix that whole ego thing. When you do an exercise like, who needs me today? Or who can I reach out to help make their day great? And you follow that prompting, you will watch absolute miracles happen. Absolute miracles happen. I had a gal that she read the book and she bought a bunch of them to give out. Out of nowhere, she gets this feeling, I'm going to leave one on the top of this gas pump. Like, what? That's as good as saying I'm going to throw this away, right? But she followed it. Spirit told her, put this on top of this gas pump. There was a specific gentleman who had written his suicide note and was about to pull the trigger when he got this feeling, don't you dare leave your Suburban empty of gas. Go fill it up first. And he gets to the gas station. He puts the pump in. He's pumping this gas, knowing full well what he's going to do as soon as he gets back home. And he sees this darn book sitting on top of that pump that says, The Light After Death. And all he can think is, well, I'm about to die. This is perfect. I'll just read a couple of pages while I'm pumping this gas. He opens it up, and by the third or fourth page, he told me he knew that plan was done. He went home. He ripped up his note, put the gun away, and decided that he wasn't so broken as he thought he was, that God did love him. He just needed to figure out how to receive that love. And to me, following those promptings is how we save each other. It's how we save each other.
Oh, yeah. And I imagine that he also read the rest of the book.
Yes, he did. He started at the gas station. He read about halfway through it at the gas station, and then he went down and read, home to get rid of that note and read the rest of it. Yeah.
Wow. Well, we can tell that hit his heart. Hey, now, Vinney, I got this next segment where I pre-prepared some surgically choice questions just for you. I think you're going to love it. Yeah, this is called Heart's First Whisper. So you can imagine you don't use your brain or your thoughts here. It's your heart that responds. Yeah. Cool. First question. When you say our souls weren't made to consume, but to create, what does that look like in your everyday life now?
I wish I could say I'm the best at it, but I'm very human. I do create quite a lot with what I do. My goal is to create far more than I consume eventually. And I think that's a real possibility for all of us. And when I say create, I mean, take your day and say, Hey, let's create a magic moment for your 4-year-old today. Then go do it. Hey, let's go create some connection time with my 15-year-old today. And then go do it. Or say, let's go make mom's job a little bit easier today. Let's do a couple of her chores for her and go do it. Like just setting out to create with our actions rather than consume. But what's neat is podcasts, posting positive content on socials, but putting positive deposits of energy into the universe. That's where we create. And it starts with our thoughts first. So if you don't think you could be doing a podcast or doing favors for anybody, at least go out there and start thinking positively first. And when you can do that, even if you're forcing yourself to do it through your imagination, then you're going to bring about this different frequency, this different broadcast for yourself, where you're broadcasting a much more positive energy, and you watch. In your outside world, positive things are going to start happening.
Oh, yeah. And, it sounds like just to carry that notion consciously, to remind yourself throughout the day that you want to do that is like the first step. And then from there, it feels like it's kind of random acts of kindness and maybe service to others effectively as it boils down.
Yes.
That's very cool.
Absolutely.
All right. Number 2, what truth are you now living that your old self could have never imagined accepting?
So this one, my intuition guides me on this one. And that is, I go back and forth between being vegetarian and vegan and then an omnivore. So, most of us out there are omnivores. That means we eat just about everything. But for me, myself, I lean towards a plant-based lifestyle and diet most of the time. I will say that when I'm on a vacation or someone is preparing food for me, I do consume the food that is prepared for me. But I'm getting to a place now where that's not going to work anymore. And I have to keep my plant-based life. And that's my choice. It's just my way of feeling a stronger connection with spirit. In Christianity, we know that in the last days of earth, the lamb will lay down with the lion. That means the lion's not going to eat the lamb. That means we're not going to either. So there's a way we can invite that higher way of being now, if we want to, even if it's one day a week in the beginning. But it's weird. You can find a very high living energy out of nature's foods when we're talking about, plants and fruits, berries, vegetables, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and it feels like as we go into a higher frequency state, we maybe will be lighter beings and we maybe even not eat food at some point. You get to such high frequency. So there might be a transition between now and then. And like transition between, I can use my pineal gland and my intuition, maybe not so much now, but more then. It's this transition. So even the lion eventually will transition to such a light body that it won't eat at all. That includes the lamb. So it could be people are in different sort of stages on that transition, I would guess.
Well, what's neat is, tapping into some of these old diets that the ancient peoples on Earth used to have. They would eat once or twice a week and not even every day. It wasn't until the modern consumerism era that we even decided to eat more than once a day. Prior to that, most people were eating maybe once a day, maybe even less. That's why in many of the old Christian faiths, there's all these feast days because those were the days you would eat. And all the days in between, even sometimes for 3 weeks, you wouldn't eat. You of course would do soups, porridges, and water, but you weren't eating feasts. And, we've come to this modern era of abundance where every meal is a feast. And it's not required. We don't need that. And in fact, most ancient sacred buildings don't have bathrooms. Think about that. Think about that. Some of the oldest cathedrals, some of the oldest holy sites that you can find on earth, they don't have bathrooms. Makes you think. And if you're not eating that often, you get to choose when you go.
Yeah. And also, I think you give your body a break and it can do repair work inside while it's not busy processing and digesting food. Food is just way too convenient. You just go to the junk food store, fast food store, grocery store, and it's just everywhere. The convenience store, there's never a moment where there isn't food around you, where that wasn't the case before. And I don't know if you've ever heard of OMAD, one meal a day, but it's pretty easy to do that if you give that a try and you eat sort of the right foods for you. And you kind of do that intermittent fasting for the other 18 hours. It's kind of interesting. I've tried that before. And I oftentimes just fall into that because I'm kind of busy, and you find that's maybe all you need,
Yeah.
Well, number 3, you said authenticity is the highest frequency we can live in. And what does being fully authentic mean to you now?
What I do is everywhere I go, as I present myself, I present to large groups all the time. I work with small groups. I also, fly all over the country and work with teachers and doctors, and I work in the healing field of helping others learn about healing. And as I do that, I'm always asking myself, am I showing up as me, or am I showing up as what I think they want to meet with me? And if I ever get a yes to the second, to the latter, I know that I have some authenticity work to do. And what's neat is the longer you do this, the more you ask yourself this, the more authentic you can be.
Nice. And then you can feel that. And it's consistent, I guess, across all experiences.
Yes, absolutely consistent. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Number 4, you spoke of pain, loss, and emotional burdens. What has suffering taught you that joy never could?
Well, number 1, a neat correlation that I picked up over the years is I'm part of a convention of a bunch of near-death experiences and after-death experiencers. And going there, every time I hear a very high detail experience, the first time this happened, Spirit prompted me, hey, go up and ask them if they were abused as a kid. So I went up. I was already friends with this one. So I said, were you abused as a kid? How did you know? So it started there. And it got to a point where I realized that most of these very high detail experiences were happening for abused kids grown up into adults. And one of the reasons that is when you're raised in abuse, you have this hyper awareness. And clinically, it's classified as an HSP, a hypersensitive person, or this extrasensory person that what's going on around you, even as you don't consciously know it, you subconsciously know it. And to me, that's one of the blessings of the abuse, the loss, the trauma that I was raised in, is it gave me this gift of a highly detailed experience so that I could share it with the world and share it with those who need it primarily. But on top of that, in my day-to-day work of helping people, and when someone comes with a very heavy trauma on them, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid at all. And in fact, sometimes I get a little excited because I can see that we can help this person exit this trauma, let this trauma exit their life, and how much that sometimes trauma is dampening our light and our life force. We don't have to. So to me, that's what the burden is to be raised in the way I was raised, so that I could have the experience and also have the gifts to help others who have carried the same burden.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You had the experience, had the lesson, and gained the wisdom. There are others that may be in the experience right now where you can help them with what the lesson is and ultimately what the wisdom is to take away from that experience.
Absolutely. And, there's a tremendous tool I've been using for a couple of years now. Spirit taught it to me. Anytime you have physical pain or emotional pain, imagine, close your eyes, Open up your nation of magi's. Open up your imagination, close your eyes, and visualize light, physical light, penetrating the space you feel yourself storing these emotions. If it's physiology in your back or your legs, your knees, whatever, but visualize light shining through that space, and then say 3 magical statements. The first one is, I'm okay. The second one, I am loved. And the third one, I am safe. And this is so powerful. I've watched someone, even in an ICU, in a hospital, someone with a broken femur, bent over in a 90-degree angle, do this for himself and turn the pain off before he was even checked into the hospital. I mean, this is very real. It works with our physiology. It works with our emotionalness, the energy of our emotions. So it can help with emotional pain and physical pain both. But it's an understanding that when we live at this higher frequency of being, we get to be in more control of our bodies and our environments.
So manifesting the things around you as well as manifesting the reduction or elimination of pain receptor.
Yes. And sometimes it works on fear too. If we're having a fear or a phobia, it works on anxiety. It's like the body needs to hear those 3 things once in a while. The body itself, because we are not our bodies. We are the soul that is journeying in these bodies. But the body needs to hear, I'm okay, I'm loved, I'm safe. And it's amazing. Watch the comments come in on that one. That is powerful. It is so powerful.
I hope to see some comments, people that have tried it, used it, and it works. It kind of feels like the vehicle. Your body is the vehicle. So if you're in the car and the horn is stuck on, kind of tell you that there's a problem, pain maybe, you can disengage, disconnect the horn, stop the pain, and still focus on taking care of yourself and mending that is broken, but without being overcome with the horn blasting in your ear the whole time.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, that takes us to number 5 here, which is, if you could only share one of the 10 principles from your experience, which one does humanity need most today?
Love everyone. Love everyone. Because we are all one. I don't care political affiliation. I don't care resident, immigrant. I don't care country of origin. Love everyone. And in the words of one of my guides, love the crap out of everyone. like just love them. Love them for who they are. Love them for their eccentricities. The crazy thing is, in this world, the hate that we deposit in others creates the enemy of tomorrow. And if we want to get rid of tomorrow's enemy, start putting love into each other.
So I would think everybody is receiving that direction and they go, of course, how could you argue with that? Now they might say, give me a practical example so that I can know how to apply that. If I have my neighbor that's annoying and causing trouble and yelling and throwing stuff over the fence, how in the heck do I love them? Just as one example.
Well, too many times reacting prevents us from acting. So keeping ourselves out of reaction and keeping ourselves in action, that's how we do it. Because in action, it's a choice. In reaction, it's an instinct. And instinct sometimes doesn't do us the best thing, especially when it comes to irrational people or emotionally unstable people. I'll give you a perfect example. I was in Washington, D.C. I had just wrapped up a big event that we were doing there. I was walking just stepped out of my Uber, and I hear, gun! And everybody in the public all ducks, and they're all hiding and ducking out of the way. And I see clearly, because the only people standing are these two gunmen and a lady that's holding onto her purse and her shopping bag. And they're trying to take it from her. But rather than run up and, hey, stop doing that, or you bad guys, rather than do that, I just calmly and confidently started walking towards them with a divine love for all of them in my eyes. And as I approached, one of the gunmen noticed me. He dropped his gun, number one. It freaked him out that I wasn't hiding like everyone else. And he picked that gun back up and he said something to his buddy. I think he thought I was a cop. And his buddy looked at me too, and they both ran. And it was neat to watch that you don't have to come with equal force. You can come with love. Now, I don't recommend walking towards gunmen, smiling at them like this crazy guy did. But I'm telling you, there's a way that when you come into altercation in your world, find a loving way to deal with it. Everyone has their own journey and their own story. And just remember that hurt people hurt people. So if someone's hurting someone in your world, find out why they're hurting. And if you can find that and help them deal with that and solve that, then they stop hurting your friends or your loved ones.
Oh, very good. Yeah. So even if it is, the neighbor next door, like you said, hurt people. So what was it that caused that person energy to go as dark as it would to do those sorts of things? Have a feeling of respect, acknowledgement of that. I kind of feel sometimes like you can think of everybody on this earthly plane sort of walking around interacting as actors kind of in a movie.
Yeah.
They really have a soul on the other side that's pure love, but they chose to come in as a character. And that character might be a villain, okay?
Yep.
But the fact is, he's only a character of a villain or she a villain, but on the other side, they're a perfectly loving, fabulous soul. And so think of them as that, and then you'll probably not really have negative energy toward them, possibly.
Absolutely. And in fact, inside every definitively bad human being, there is light. It might be deep down and you've got to dive in to find it, but it's there. And it may be just a kind gesture from you that invites it out of them. A gesture that doesn't make any sense, Yeah,
where they connect back to their other side. They just get a glimmer of that and they realize there's no reason to be anything but love. And you may get that. So that's pretty cool. And that brings us to number 6, which is, what do you hope is waiting for you in your soul's backpack when you return home for good?
To me, I carry that with me now. I carry the gifts, the tools, the assets that I am picking up from life. I carry them now. And I know I'll carry them with me on the other side. The beauty is when you step through that veil, any strength you have that's like a 2 becomes a 20. I mean, you become so much more amplified without the resistance of life here, because there is a lot of resistance. To me, my greatest tool in my backpack is love. Hands down, by far, the greatest. One thing I've never been accused of is not loving enough. I've been accused many times of loving too much and never giving up on people. And I do love people. I truly can walk up to a stranger and absolutely love them, because I know that there's a piece of God in there, and I can connect to that piece and love it and love the body that's around them, But to me, the greatest gift that I get to take with me in the backpack is love.
Yeah, and when you get to the other side, that's because you've been there, and felt that. That's what it is. It's pure love, and it is so unbelievably powerful. Maybe this question isn't really what do you hope is waiting in that backpack. Maybe it's what do you want to take from this experience in this backpack to the other side, which is another way of saying that is, why is it that you came here, your purpose, your lessons, what wisdom bundle is it you're bringing back that you didn't have?
Well, the funny thing is, on the other side where we came from, there's so much love for us that when we think about something the universe starts creating it for us. Because that universe on that side is so full of love for us. So the power of creation starts with the littlest thoughts there. And I feel that one of the greatest gifts we get here is there is a delay between having the thought and having the universe help you create it. And in between there, in that gap, there's this room for effort, for action. And to me, that's one of the greatest gifts we get, is we get to do action here. We get to take action. We get to plan action. Whereas over there, we don't need any action. That the action is part of the system that loves us so much. So, before we come to Earth life, some of us don't really care about learning because we know everything through our plugging into the quantum field or the body of the whole. But after we come here, a lot of us are passionate about learning. Even though we can access all eternal truths in the quantum field, we still want to know them for ourselves. So, to me, it's about the power of making choices. That's the greatest thing that we get to take with us when we go to the other side.
And it feels like we experience all the minutiae, the details involved in manifesting the thing we're after, as opposed to just instantaneous.
Yeah, instantaneous. Yeah.
Yeah, and the details are important. Well, hey, that brings us to number 7, our final, which is, if God were whispering through you right now to someone listening who feels lost, what might be said?
What you look for, you will find. So watch what you're looking for. In life, if we're looking for answers in others, that's all we're going to find, is other people's answers. But when we're looking for answers of truth and we look within, we can get access to truth from within us. But, for someone who's lost hope, know that, number one, you're okay. You're loved. Even if you can't see it or feel it, you are loved. And you're safe. And remember that every single day, even if you got to say that 100 times a day. I've said it to myself sometimes on a rough day, like maybe 20 times. I'm okay. I'm loved. I'm safe. Because it's the body trying to process all this stuff that makes us depressed. The soul doesn't get depressed, the body does. But a soul in motion is full of emotion. So if you're struggling with hope, with passion, go move your body. If you're in a bad weather area, go to a mall and move your body. Go to a gym or a rec center. Go move your body. And what you'll find is Einstein was right. Motion creates emotion.
I love it. But even for you, someone who's experienced this on the other side still has challenging moments throughout this physical incarnation.
Absolutely, I do, yeah.
Yeah, so imagine how it is for other folks that haven't had that knowing. So I tell you what would really help them is knowing more about your website and your book and your podcast and your services. Why don't we talk about that?
Okay. And just as a follow-up to what you just said, it's almost easier being ignorant, because once you know, you have no excuse. And if I'm not feeling good, I can't blame anyone. And if I go to point my finger at someone, I know I'm not pointing them at them. I know I'm pointing it at me. So I can't get away with what we normally do with ignorance, right? So ignorance is truly bliss with that. So watch your journey as you gain new levels. It doesn't get necessarily easier. It does get better, but not necessarily easier. But it is worth it. Just like Drake told me, is worth it. So worth it. But where people can find me is through my nonprofit. It's called livinggodslight.org. But yeah, just livinggodslight.org. They can connect there. We have an email newsletter. We also have a podcast through YouTube and through all the places you find podcasts. And it's called the Living God's Light Podcast. we set up this nonprofit when we started the book. We wanted a portion of everything that goes from that book to go towards charity. And we've aligned ourselves with some really neat charities over the years. And one of them is our own nonprofit, which we do all sorts of events. We do certain scholarship things. It's pretty amazing, though, to watch what we can do when we just care about each other. Simple. Care about each other.
And you're setting a great example for that, for sure, with all those services. So, hey, Vinney, you know what? Thank you for sharing this extraordinary journey with us, man. From the Dairy Queen to the Divine.
Yeah.
And back again.
I love that one. Dairy Queen to Divine.
Yeah. Well, you know, your story reminds us that death is not the end and life is far more sacred and interconnected than we often realize. So before we button this all up, do you have any final brilliant words for the folks that are still hanging on with us so far?
Life is far more scary than death. So don't be afraid to step out in there and live it. And be unafraid of your death one day. Because when it comes, it's going to come. But it's not something you need to run from. It's also not something you need to encourage or set up. But it's something that you can know is this great reprieve of the struggle, of the hardship. But choose today to make heaven out of today.
Beautiful. I believe in all those words you just shared, and I would imagine most do. If folks want to believe and they need help, make sure you go see Vinney at livinggodslight.org for sure. He will help you top to bottom. Hey, to our listeners, if Vinney's story moved you, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. I want to thank the listeners for sure, and then definitely thank you, Vinney. Thank you for everything today.
Yeah, thank you. It's my pleasure, Brad. And if you want, I'd be happy to send you a few books to hand out as prizes to your audience if you want to.
Oh, yeah, I would love that. Absolutely. Okay. And, you know, and the viewers love jumping in the comments. Boy, they get busy in there. If you're able to check them out, great. If not, I'll grab a few choice ones and send them over to you so you're aware.
That'd be awesome. I'll send you 11 books, okay? Because you know my thing with 11. So
I know your thing with 11. Well, and I had 7 special questions for you, but I asked you 4 earlier, so it was total of 11.
That's perfect. I love it. Yeah.
11, man. Love it.
There we go.
All right. Well, perfect. And until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and go beyond the illusion to discover your true self. Take care, everyone, and bye for now.